All right, I think we are going to officially get started. So welcome, everyone. Thanks for taking some time out of your day to join us. We're really excited to speak with FKG Oil. FKG Oil does business as MotoMart convenience stores, and we'll get Ian and Brian to give a little background on themselves. But today we're going to be talking about how to make data useful at the store level. So for those of you who are current clients, we get a lot of questions about, how do we roll Taiga out and make it useful across the entire organization? And we have been working with Ian and Brian at MotoMart convenience stores, and they have done just that. They have rolled out Taiga to the store manager level of the organization, and we're going to talk about some of the benefits they've seen, the program they've put together, and exactly how the store managers are using and how they're feeling about Taiga. So I think I jumped, let's see here, to the next slide. A little bit more, again, as I mentioned, we're also going to talk about some specific use cases. So, the so what, it's rolled out. Now, what are the benefits? What are the examples of actually what's come of it? Lessons learned, and then kind of next steps for MotoMart and also next steps for you all as well. So I'm going to start with introducing the speakers. Before I do that, just so you know, there is a chat and it is being monitored by one of the members of our team at Taiga. So you may not be able to see it, but if you have any questions along the way, please throw that in the chat. We'll have a Q&A at the end, and we will also try to answer some of those through the chat. And then if they're specifically directed towards Ian or Brian, myself or John, we'll handle that as well. So let's start with Ian Forsyth. So Ian is the Director of Operations at MotoMart Convenience Stores, and he's going to be sharing with us. He's been very integral part of rolling out Taiga. He'll be sharing a lot of insight today. We also have Brian Benner. Brian is the VP of IT at MotoMart convenience stores, and some of you may recognize Brian from, we've done a couple of on-stage presentations with Brian. I know Brian and John did one at Impact last year. So Brian's going to talk about Taiga and their organization from an IT perspective. We also have John Oakley, who's one of the founders of Taiga and the CIO, and he is going to speak to the technical pieces from the Taiga point of view. And again, I'm Jenny Hill. I run customer success for Taiga. And so for those of you who are not currently clients, where I come into play is as soon as you go through the sales process, I jump in and lead you through implementation, and then continue the relationship with you ongoing. So I'll be moderating today, and we'll let these gentlemen give the most information and take it from there. So let's turn it over to Ian. Would you mind giving us a little bit of background about the organization?
Sure. Thanks, Jenny. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Ian. I'm the Director of Operations for MotoMart Convenience Stores. So MotoMart is a chain of 84 convenience stores operating in the Midwest United States. We're in 6 states: Missouri, Illinois, Wisconsin, Minnesota, Ohio, and Indiana. And about half of our store density is in the Southern Illinois and Eastern Missouri markets. So we've been in business. This is our 70th year, so we've been having a lot of celebrations around that. So been at it for quite some time, and we are family owned and operated. We've got the 4th generation actively involved in business.
Awesome. Thank you, Ian.
Yeah.
Now we're going to turn it over to Brian. Brian, why don't you set up the challenge for us? What is it that you were looking to solve when we first started in conversations with you all?
Sure. So, from an IT side, we had a number of systems. Our point of sale, we had back office, we had spreadsheets, we had a reporting system that is a part of our financial suite, and it was very fragmented. It was very manual, very labor intensive, and our managers they weren't able to make a lot of data driven decisions. Quite frankly, through the entire chain from the top down, really we're having issues because it just wasn't accessible and quick and fast and easy and at fingertips. So we needed a way to reduce kind of our internal data burden to get real-time answers into the hands of people that could use them, store managers, territory reps, all the way up to our executive level.
Very nice. So then the question becomes, why'd you pick Taiga? How did we win it?
Yeah, we looked at different tools. There's a number of them out there. We looked everything from building in-house. We knew that was very, very time consuming, and we're kind of limited. Sorry for the background noise there. We're limited on my team size on building that from scratch, especially consolidation of all these different systems. And what really stood out about Taiga was the ease of the integration. Next month will be it's hard to believe, my 28th year here at FKG Moto, and I'm not exaggerating when I say this was the lightest IT lift I've ever done. I always do kind of a deep breath when someone comes to me and says, here's a new project, and I don't do that deep breath because I don't want to do it, but it's like, okay, now how much time do I have to allocate for my team? And I was, I'm not being, I'm not exaggerating at all when I say I was shocked at how quickly we had it up and running. John and I worked together on, I think it was 2 pilot sites for the data flow. And quite frankly, by the next morning, it was there. And I thought, whoa, okay. And we turned the rest of the sites on, started the import of the data, from our point of sale site controller into, Taiga, and it was up and running. I mean, literally within days. And when I say it was a light lift, I truly mean that. It was very, very little resources on my team, and the data was there. It was trustworthy because it was, real live data. And what I really, really liked about Taiga was on so many of these previous systems that we had been using, the onus fell upon myself and my team to do that training and the data aggregation, and in reality that really should fall under where it is now, which is under an operations side or a marketing side. And so when Ian saw this product too right after the data was flowing, he's like, oh, now I'm taking over because this is where it should be. It shouldn't be an IT going, I need to train everybody how to use it. Ian jumped right on board. He learned it really, really quickly, started creating custom reports. And then I was able to just go more of a support role from the IT. And this is where I want to say, this is what I really like about Taiga is, anytime I can shoot an email or a call to John, if I'm having, and it doesn't happen very often at all, but if I'm having any sort of issue, it's resolved just that fast. John and his team from a IT side or support side is been so far just unmatched. So I won't rattle on about it, but that's why we chose that.
Thanks, Brian.
Yeah, and just to go ahead, John.
Go ahead.
I was saying thank you to Brian. It's been great working with you guys as well.
Awesome. Yeah, just to add to that, Jenny, from the business side, we kind of came to the conclusion that our current business analytics solution was not really delivering what we needed from it in this day and age, which was PDI focal point. So we were looking for more capabilities, but then, when we looked at all of the available product offerings out there, Taiga just represented a really nice kind of Goldilocks area for us where, as opposed to going with a Power BI or Tableau solution, where we're doing a lot of the lifting ourselves, like Brian said, we're getting a lot of the same functionality with a lot less cost around data management in general. And, we're instead able to shift a lot of that over to Taiga, who are, really great vendor partners with us. And then we can focus our resources on really trying to use the data to drive additional sales and improve our operations. So it's that nice middle ground where you get high value per cost, at least in our assessment.
Awesome. Thank you both. So, excuse me. So after we all decided to work together, then came the next part of, how are we going to roll this out? What's the strategy going to be? And so here at Taiga, we really do work with you on, we start with an assessment of what your goals are within the organization, and ideally start with the more of the core management level to get everybody on board, make sure that we know what you all want to work on, and then what's the path going forward. So Ian, could you talk a little bit about the strategy that we rolled out with you guys?
Yeah. So we knew that the rollout was absolutely critical to nailing this project. With so many of these tools, the value is really what you create with it. So if you're not really creating a solution for your company that is easy to access and to learn, and then getting people engaged in it, then it's not going to be nearly as valuable. So we had to be really thoughtful with how we rolled this out. And again, we worked very closely with Taiga to figure out exactly how to do this. The first key component was that we were careful with how we rolled it out. We didn't just throw it out there and tell people to go figure out how to use it. Instead, we took the opposite approach. We had at least 3 phases of rollout. First kind of rollout was to power users and users within our marketing and merchandising team. Second phase was to our district managers. And then finally, the third phase was to our store managers. And at each step along the way, we really thought about, how the product was going to be used by these user groups, and then use the roles and permissions capabilities within Taiga to really refine the product offering so that each user only had access to what they absolutely needed to create value for the organization. So that had to do with what dashboards they had available to them, what data they had available to them, and then kind of marrying that to specific workflows that we wanted them to use to actually do their day-to-day job. That really helped. The specific use cases within Taiga really helped us with accountability as well, because we were actually setting expectations about what you're doing with this specific dashboard and at what frequency and that kind of thing. Other ancillary processes that check that they're actually using the product. And then, the point is that simplicity is key, starting with very narrow, specific ways that we expect users to use Taiga so that they can work their way up the learning curve. And then naturally, as they get more familiar with the product, they'll start to branch out and figure out other ways that they can use the data to generate insight within their stores. And then finally, just making sure that we came with a very polished, refined product with a bunch of resources to train yourself, to jump off and do additional follow-on training to become experts in different areas, so that our employees knew that they'd be supported in those endeavors.
Awesome. Thanks, Ian. All right, so now getting into the nitty-gritty here of, you guys have all learned it at the top level. The district managers have learned how to use Taiga. They've given their input. And then what we get a lot of questions about is, how do you actually get a store manager to buy into this? And how did you push that along? So can you talk through a little bit about exactly how the store manager uses Taiga, what they're looking at, and what you have, what you've done with it? And then we'll get into some other specific cases. But I know you talked about simplicity and just providing a very finite amount of data for them to look at. But if you could just talk us through that, that'd be great.
Sure. Yeah. So, what we've realized is that water tends to flow down the path of least resistance. And if you want managers to start using a product, you have to make it super simple and actually make their lives a little bit easier. So we initially focused on trying to find use cases in the store that the managers had to do today that they could do a better job with or do more efficiently in Taiga. So there, the value proposition was really clear, and um, in their own self-interest, managers would be drawn to use the product. And again, the more that they get in the product, the more they learn how to click through the dashboards and set the settings. Then our hope is that that kind of primes the pump, and then eventually they'll have that shift in their brain so that when they're trying to solve a problem, they'll just kind of default to saying, okay, let me go look at the data and try to figure this out. Incorporate the business analytics within their whole problem solving process. And so, yeah, focusing on those narrow opportunities that they're already doing today. And then the screenshot that you see really is an example of that previous concept, which was simplicity. So Tag has generated an abundance of different screens for all different kinds of use cases. We probably at this point expose less than 20% of those to our store managers. So again, being really thoughtful with, if you're on this dashboard where the expectation is that you're doing this, or if you're trying to solve this problem, then the way that you do that is to go click here. And so you see that kind of on the left-hand side of the screen. My available dashboard is much longer than that. The second area is this concept of home store, and this is something where we kind of collaborated with Taiga to figure out how to efficiently visualize the data for store managers. So we wanted the managers first and foremost to be focused on the data for their store. But we also wanted to give them the ability to compare their store's performance to stores within their district. Because our belief is that you can generate a lot of insight by looking at your store's performance over time. So, comparing current performance to performance in the prior period. But you can also, and we kind of think of that like as a vertical comparison. But we also know that we can generate insight by comparing a store's performance to similar stores over the same time period. And that's what we've come to refer to as like a horizontal comparison. And so being able to configure Taiga in a way that gave our managers access to both vertical and horizontal comparisons just increased the amount of insight that we could drive from the product exponentially. So yeah, with the home store, the quick access, one click for our manager is always going to default to their store so that they can go quickly look things up and it's not confusing. But with just a few clicks, they can start to run really interesting comparisons with another store in their district or against all other stores in their district, like in an average. So that's a way that we've kind of worked to refine and curate the experience for the managers so that they can really quickly get to the answer that they're looking for.
Have they been surprised by what they see in the other stores? Like, have they been paying much attention to other stores, or are they,
I think the managers are mostly focused on their own store performance, but where the comparisons have really yielded a good initial return has been on the district manager level, who really kind of look more broadly across different stores. And so we give our district managers the ability to look at other territories as well. And so they can run comparisons from their territory versus surrounding territories. Territory is our internal term for district, and I can't shake not using the lingo, but they can look at their grouping of stores versus surrounding groupings of stores and then do that analysis even within their own territory for stores with certain kinds of characteristics and product offerings.
Awesome. Thank you. Hey, John, can you touch on the Taiga side of that and what we do from a technical aspect to make sure those screens are configured correctly?
Yeah, absolutely. This was reminding me of a lot of things when we were going through this with you all, and We start out with it, a handful of different roles that we have as starting points, and so as we went through this process with FKG and with other clients, it's really interesting from my perspective to just see the different decisions that one chain will make versus another. Like Ian talking about here, how important it was to allow the managers and the district managers to see outside of their district, but to make it so that it is one click focused on what they're going to want to see on their day to day. Really, drive them to that focus, but also give them the ability to look outside that. Whereas other folks will want to just keep them on those vertical lookups as Ian talked about. And so lots of different things that need to be considered through that process. But the key thing I think Ian hit on the most there was just that iterative process of starting with those power users, getting that experience in there, and then starting to work your way down really provides that compounding value, because you as a team start to really get very, very involved in all the things that are possible for you to do within the Taiga platform. It reminded me of one thing that we were doing on one of our sessions, and Ian and I were working through setting up, I think it was the store manager level roles, and I was doing a screen share, and I was just showing him on a feature we had on our side for our Taiga administrators to be able to impersonate a user to show them how everything looked as that person. He's like, "Oh, I'd really like to be able to do that too." I'm like, "Well, you know what? That sounds like a really good idea, Ian." And I think it was by the end of that same day we had been able to roll that out down, and we use that heavily throughout, like for all sorts of other clients as we're going and doing the same process with them too now too. So it's great from my perspective, because that helps us to come up with all sorts of new ways to help serve you better from our perspective.
Thank you. We do have, I'm going to hit a couple questions that have come in because it's pertinent to what we're talking about right now. And then for those of you who, some of the others will hit in the Q&A session, but there's one specifically for Ian, for you. As the store managers compare horizontally and vertically with their other stores, what kind of action items are coming out of those conversations that are being had?
So we have a kind of an example further on in the webinar that's going to look at what a comparison looks like visually. But just to answer that briefly now, a lot of the interesting ones there have to do with like product mix and sales growth. So we kind of look at sales growth within a store in a certain department or product category, and then you kind of look across the territory to see if that same trend is also reflected in these other stores. And then by doing that comparison, you can kind of start to ask these questions: is that difference in sales growth for a certain category due to just fundamental differences within the stores, different layouts, different surrounding areas, different highway access? Or is it just that there's something else that's being done in the store that can be replicated? And so generally, when we think about what we're doing with Taiga, we're trying to look at the data and identify trends. And if you can either have a positive trend or a negative trend, if you then as a business can think creatively to figure out how to either reverse a negative trend or extend a positive trend, then you're creating value in the business. And so those comparisons just kind of help us look for positive trends in one area of the business and see if we can then take what we've learned in that specific microcosm and then extend it across the rest of the chain.
Awesome. And like Ian said, we're going to touch on that here a little bit more specifically too, as we talk about some use cases. So now we've talked a little bit about why Taiga, how we got going, and then we really want to get into now, why the why, a little bit about loss prevention, a little bit about, specific cases that you've seen. And so Ian, I'll let you jump in and talk about that.
Of course. Yeah. And just quickly, I didn't get to add my 2 cents when John was talking about some of the examples of collaboration, but yeah, multiple product features have come out of some of the work that we've done with Taiga, and it's just, if there's any more, I'm gonna have to start charging you guys a consulting fee, I think. But no, it's been very collaborative. It's so refreshing to have a vendor that is responsive to feedback and willing to kind of brainstorm with you, ask you not why you want to add a feature, but why not add this feature. So that's been our experience working with John and Jenny and the rest of the team. And we really appreciate that from all of our vendor partners. So yeah, shifting to some of these specific ways that we've created value. So this is an example of something that we were doing previously, checking to make sure that we are handling restricted item sales according to all of our standards and surrounding regulations. We were using other systems to do this, but Taiga allows us to do this very quickly across a large area. So in this specific screen, you can see two things. The first is whether there were any bypass transactions. So just making sure that we want IDs checked everywhere. And so this will kind of quickly highlight if any, for some reason, the cashiers are able to bypass age restriction and very quickly hone in on that and figure out what's going on. And then maybe more importantly for us, because we have pretty good compliance with that, but looking at the dates that are being entered for non-scan transactions. And so, like all other chains, we have issues where, customers can be a little bit standoffish when handing IDs, or it's just kind of uncomfortable to enter that. It's a lot of work to enter the correct date. And so we have associates that start to default to entering the same date over and over again. And that's what the age verification date pie chart shows us, is trends on the dates entered. And so what we're looking for there is a healthy spread where there's some randomness within like the actual dates that are being entered. Each sliver is a specific date. And so if an employee has started to use their own birth date or a generic entry like 1111 or whatever,
they would never do that, Ian. Never.
Yeah. Then that's very visible, and then we can very quickly respond to that on a manager or a supervisor level and correct that behavior. And so this is an example of a relatively healthy pie chart where we've got a lot of little slivers, and the other is the largest one, but that 5/14/1995 may be an issue, or in some of our stores we use a specific date to identify customers that we've been able to identify as being clearly over an age limit. And so that's kind of like a code that's put in just to kind of show that we've made that determination. So this is an example of a healthy store. No course correction needed.
This is always a fun one. I find when we start going through training, people have a bit of an aha moment and either comment that, wow, there are a lot of people in our town with the same birthday, that type of thing. All right, so that is one example. Actually, John, do you have anything to say about going back to the age verification? Any comments from your side on that?
No, I think Ian covered on it really well there about, just, whether it's that or really anything else, being able to understand the business application of it and be able to provide that information to the right people at the right time is really where you're going to create value. And so whether we're talking age restricted, sales analysis or many other things, our focus is always on making it so that the right people get the right information at the right time.
And the age verification specifically, that was one that came from one of our first customers because they had been trying to solve an issue that they were having. And so we were able to collaborate with them on that. And then everybody else has also gotten the benefit of it as it's rolled out across the platform. So that's been a really popular one. And we, again, appreciate everybody who offers up ideas and suggestions. Next one is inventory. So let's talk a little bit about that and how are you using how are the managers using the platform to take a look at inventory? I think this is over 2 slides. So Ian, if you want me to flip
Yeah,
to the
yeah.
next slide, you know when.
Yeah, I'll give you a heads up. So yeah, I mean, then I picked, or I guess we picked the restricted sales example just because that's a good example of existing processes that were able to be quickly transitioned over to Taiga and be more efficient. Another one is like just looking up receipts. You can see like the receipt level data within Taiga, so it's really easy with a really robust search functionality, just like look up prior receipts for customer questions and that kind of thing. So that was a good win. I think Brian actually collaborated with you on that one a little bit, but then you kind of jump more into the meat and potatoes of that sales level data analysis. And so this is a good example. We love this screen, the issue detection screen, just because it's, again, very straightforward with what is being represented in the data, and it allows the manager to think critically and take action on what they're seeing. So there's 2 tabs within the issue detection screen. The first you can see here is highlighted the product alert detail. And then right next to that, and about the middle of the screen on the left side, is the stale items dust check. So we're going to look at both of these, but the first is product alert detail. Product alert detail basically it looks at the current sales for most recent sales for a product, and then it compares it against what you typically sell for the preceding periods, and then it's bubbling up anomalies where there's like a large drop in that. So this is potentially lost sales the way that it's represented in Taiga. Taiga is looking at the dollar value of the sales, typical sales, and then what you've sold, and kind of calculating an opportunity cost. So that kind of helps us right size the magnitude of the issue. But you can very quickly identify in some cases lost sales. Obviously you have to rely on the manager's experience and intuition on why some of these things might be expected. But just like looking down this example for our sample store, you're seeing that donuts and pastry on 8/27, typically we sell about like 30 donuts in that case a day, and 0 were sold. And so that might point to a potential vendor delivery issue. Same thing with the roses right underneath that. So that's something that could be looked into. The little bit further down, you see some of our fountain soda sales are much lower on 8/27 as well. This could be an issue with the machine. This could be expected because we've recently changed our fountain soda cup sizes, and maybe we phased out of a cup size. Or it could be a operating standards issue where we've got an employee that is not keying in certain sizes correctly and just entering everything as a large instead of some of the other sizes. So in a lot of cases, this is just a jumping off point, but it's flagged it for the manager, and then it's up to the manager to go investigate and try to see if there's a real issue here. So those are kind of interesting. And then if you want to switch to the next slide, Jenny.
Mm-hmm.
So the stale items dust check screen just shows us items that haven't been rung up in quite a while. And some of these are going to be expected, especially if it's like a limited flavor or version of a product that is just rolling off the offering. I think potentially that might be what's happening with the top one here, the Orange Fury energy drink right there. But in other cases, like the bean dip, perhaps that's just showing that it's not really selling that well, and that might prompt the manager to take a look at where it's being stocked in the store. Is it being given enough space? Is it being given a more prominent? Does it need to be given a more prominent space? Or perhaps we need to just stop selling it and replace it with something that will sell better, and put it on a fire sale to get it out of the store. So just kind of quickly glancing this for managers can really help them think more critically about what their product selection and product mix is, and try to join in the conversation with our product category specialists on what needs to be sold in the stores.
And then some of this data can be taken back as you're talking about determining what you're going to sell and not sell, but you can take it back to the vendor as well if they're trying to push a product and you're like, hey, this does not sell at this location or this store as much as you're telling me I should have, some raspberry flavored beef jerky or whatever it is. It doesn't sell, so you can show them this data as well.
That's right.
Anything else on inventory? And we've got another use case that that's a really exciting one that we wanted to get into.
Sure. I can see that there's a question that came in around age restriction, whether the specific cashier can be seen in Taiga besides just a cashier number. And I believe the answer is yes. There's a section within the settings of the product where you can assign names to cashier numbers that are coming from your point of sale. So once you've gone through and just added your roster, the managers can do that. So, it's not a very heavy lift if they're going to use the product in this way to go add names to the 10 or so cashier numbers, and then they can see on an individual basis who's performing what action.
Yes, Ian.
There's another question about labor scheduling. We'll talk about that one in the Q&A. So we will get to you on that one. All right, next one. So this is the one that's been really exciting for us to work with. This is Ian's brainchild here on how to use Taiga as it relates to a bonus program and incentives for the store manager. So, if you walk us through that would be great.
Yeah. So one thing we realized as we went through this is we had to establish specific processes to make sure that we held our users accountable for actually using this platform. But another way that we wanted to push engagement and hold managers accountable was to link some of these business analytics to our store bonus program, store employee bonus program. And so that was the vision right from the onset of working with Taiga. So we, alongside bringing this product on board and releasing it to our folks, we built out a new component of our employee bonus that's based on year-over-year store sales growth. And then we provided dashboards within Taiga to allow managers to track at any given time where they were trending in store sales versus their target, which was prior year sales. Mm-hmm. And so Taiga was presented as the primary tool really to improve your store's performance on your bonus by being able to look into why your sales were trending a certain way and then generating insight to then grow your sales and improve your bonus. And so that's a lot of the value that was created in our specific use case. And this comparison example is kind of a way that's done. So what we do is we look at the store sales, year-over-year store sales growth, by department or by product category. And then we look down that list to see, where the store is gaining sales and where their sales are decreasing. And then what we want to do then is also not only look over time, but look at how other stores are doing to try to look for those horizontal comparisons and insights. So in this case, we just went to a screen which shows the top products by units sold within our sample store on the left side. And then we use Taiga's comparison tool, which kind of throws up two instances of a screen next to one another so that you can do a direct side-by-side comparison. So on the left side, we did the sample store. And then on the right-hand side of the screen, we did all the other stores surrounding that store in that territory, less that store, because you want to take that store out of the sample size, or else it'll skew your results. And then we just looked at for the beer category, we looked at the top units sold from top to bottom. And you can see, like initially in this example, or right off the bat that the product mix for beer sales is very different in the store than the rest of the district. So where store XYZ is selling Mick Ultra and Busch, you can see that on the right side, generally Keystone, Bud Ice, and Labatt is doing a lot better. And you only start to see some of the Natural Light down further. So that could be due to where the store is located specifically, but my impression looking at this is that this manager probably wants to take a pretty close look at what kind of products are selling around their stores, and maybe work with our product category specialists to adjust their sales mix or the amount of product that they're placing in their store. So potential opportunity to increase their beer sales by adjusting the products that they're offering. Danny, you're on mute.
Thank you, Ian. Thanks for muted. All right, so what's changed? I mean, you've implemented Taiga across the organization. Brian, can you talk to us a little bit about, how the store teams have changed their approach to working? What has it taken some pressure off you, as you mentioned before, the IT side? If you could just talk through a little bit about what's changed.
Yeah, I mean, it really has changed significantly in the sheer number of end users, managers, again, all the way through territory supervisors to our category managers, that they're using Taiga, whereas they really weren't using the previous system because it was very cumbersome. It was difficult. Our district managers, when they were at home trying to look at data, they were having to use a VPN to get to that data. Very, very cumbersome. And they're asking better questions. They're being more proactive, and it's taken a lot of pressure off my team. And instead of doing manually compiling reports or help end users troubleshoot getting to the data, the Taiga platform is just there. It's real time. And we didn't touch on this earlier, but the other beautiful thing is, I'm importing, automatically, of course, but that data from every site every 15 minutes to the Taiga platform. So that information is, available in relative real time at the hands of whoever wants to see it, the manager or whatever. Now, I'll tell two very, very quick stories. I know we're pressing for time here, but one was I had a category manager get a hold of me unprompted and say, "Hey, I love this. I've got my tablet in a site. I saw something interesting happen virtually in real time. There was a product that I was shocked wasn't selling better because it's the top mover. And when I got to looking, I thought, oh, it's in a kind of a hard to see spot." And he said he moved it. He did some rearranging. He did a few other things. He had the Taiga platform open. He looked and he saw that there was a movement on that product already. And he said, "Oh, it's working. I can see it happen in real time." It's pretty cool. Then the
Sometimes
other one
people
was
put the big cutouts in front of. They move things around, and then you can't see the product. I know.
Yeah, and the other one was,
don't put shippers in front of shippers.
Oh, yeah.
The other one is a tale of that's we're all familiar with. You have a user or two that's very hesitant to make the move. And I worked with John. I said, "John, it'd be really neat to make sure that this platform is being utilized." And he said, "Oh, no problem. I'll provide you a weekly report with everybody who logs on to this system and how long they're on it." I said, "Oh, bingo, this is exactly what I'm after." And there was a user that I noticed wasn't using it. And I thought, I wonder why. So I reached out to her and I said, "I want to work with you." And she said, "Well, I just know the other system." And I'll just be honest with you. I said, "Okay." I said, "Before I show you how to do it in Taiga, let me connect remotely to your computer. I want you to show me how you're doing it now." Okay. So she started that process. And, while we're waiting, I learned about her new house that was being built, et cetera. But the point of the story is it was a very, very long process. And I said, "Oh, now let's go to Taiga. I'm gonna run it there." And within I think a minute and a half, 2 minutes, she said, "Oh, this is a game changer. I just never took the time. I said, okay. And I actually reached out to her, I think it was about 2 weeks ago. And I said, how's it going? She goes, love it. I said, so sometimes you need to hold hands in the show, this solution is slicker, faster. And I'll quit talking because I could rave about it. But I was just shocked by just how fast the decision making can change at the store. And one final anecdote here is we had a site that the manager we had placed 2 self-checkout systems in, and the manager said, just no one's really using them, and I think I like to get rid of them. And I said, okay. So again, with the data at hand through Taiga, when the breakdown by register, by sales, by register, I said, oh, are you aware that 43% of your sales are going through your self-checkout? Oh, I had no idea. I think I'll not quite to have those removed. So I think that's a powerful tool too, that I can break it down, and the stores can break it down, and the supervisors can break it down by the actual register itself, and you can really see these really interesting curves in usage. So, so again, I think it's all of the data points that it pulls in is really fascinating. So, yeah.
All right, thanks, Brian. We are getting close to the end of our time, so I'm going to have Ian speak very quickly about what's next. Is there what are you looking to do next with your teams? Is there anything specific within Taiga that you want to tackle with them? Any ideas on what you're gonna do next?
Yeah, just onwards and upwards. We're going to keep on doing what we're doing. We've got established use cases, and we're creating value with the product, and we're just going to continue to, through experience, add more use cases, make sure that that's distributed across our whole chain. So just kind of continuing to build our portfolio of ways that we're creating value, and then we're looking at more and more functionality within Taiga. We're particularly excited about some of the rebate functionality with your partnership with PDI, and we're also looking at things like price optimization and inventory projections and that kind of thing, forecasting. And so there's a lot of exciting things that I know you guys are working on, and we're excited to pick up and use in the future.
Awesome. All right, so real quickly, if I could summarize, I'd say the key takeaways that we have from Ian, Brian, and the team there is to really start with. It sounds like you need to start with focused workflows. So I know we get a lot of people that come on and want to specifically replicate a report or a dashboard that they're currently using, which is fine. We can, Taiga can do that. But starting with the workflow, what is it that you want to accomplish? You want to make sure that the views are actionable and role specific. So, taking the time to go through each role within the organization, what we both hope to achieve with that role, and aligning data to performance goals has been key for you guys, and also picking the right tool, something that can drive adoption quickly. Those seem to be the takeaways from our relationship with you all. And is there anything else you want to add to that? And then we can jump into some questions, because there's a couple that have come up.
I think you did a great job.
Okay, well, and I think we had a couple. Thank you. Thanks so much. So a couple questions. So I don't think everybody is able to see the chat. So I know we've answered a couple here online, but one question that came up in the chat is who is your back office? I saw that you answered that, but if you want to,
it is PDI. It is PDI, and we were using Focal Point as our primary reporting tool prior to Taiga. And we knew that was coming, and obviously PDI partnered with you for a reason. We were coming to an end, and they weren't updating Focal Point any longer. They made that very clear. So, yeah.
Awesome. Then another question that we have here is, how easy is this for the store managers? A lot of this individual says a lot of their guys are not great with tech. So how did that work itself out? Did you go on site? How'd you drive that?
Yeah, again, I mean, that was pretty much the primary challenge for us as well. We've got folks that are super tech savvy, and we've got some who, almost avoid it on purpose. So we have to cater our internal offering to a whole range of people with different levels of tech literacy. And the way that we solve that is, again, by simplifying what's presented, being very clear with the workflows that we want them to run through the platform. And then, like Brian said, just kind of doing some hand-holding to kind of dispel some of the fear of what the product represents instead of what it actually is. So one of the things I love about Taiga is their app is very accessible via mobile. It's like smartphone. So you kind of get it set up as like a tile, like any other app, quick single or facial recognition login, and then I can start tapping away. So whenever I'm in the stores, which is at least a couple times a month, if there's any opportunity for me to kind of show managers what I'm thinking about or what I'm looking at, I'll just kind of pull open the Taiga app and start clicking a few things and saying, hey, what's something that you're seeing in your store? Okay, well, sales are, this has been selling well. I go, okay, let's go check that in the data. And with a couple clicks, I'll kind of pull up some dashboards and kind of show them. You're like, oh, okay, well, maybe that's not really the case. Like, let me see. And so we're just kind of always looking for opportunities to kind of handhold and test assumptions, use that data to hone what their experience and intuition is telling them.
Awesome. We have a question from Matthew, and I'll let John answer this one. How fresh is the data available in Taiga? Is it live as it's processed through the point of sale, or is it compiled daily? Good question.
Yeah, so I think Brian mentioned for them, he has his set up on a 15-minute polling interval, but really that is the main limitation there. What that polling interval is set up at the point of sale. If it's dropping immediately, then from the time the point of sale produces the transaction, which is could be set to 1 minute poll, 5-minute poll, 15-minute poll, depending on scale of your organization. Between 1 to 3 minutes from that point in time, it's run through our pipeline in Taiga. So it literally is about as real time as it can get.
Awesome.
One other thing to think about in that question is real-time data sounds really, really cool. But what is the actual use case for that real-time data? I'd say that I can't really think of a specific use case that we have besides maybe a transaction lookup, where having really, something less than 15 minutes would matter. I think a lot of our stuff is looking at, prior days, weeks, months, rather than like real time. So 15 minutes is more than enough for what I think we'll use in the foreseeable future.
Awesome. We had back to the store performance and the comparisons. We had a question about, can the manager see the store performance over time in a graph format? So I know we showed the graph with the age restrictions, but and then the second part of that was, can they further compare their store to the district stores over time in graphs? So are graphs utilized within the organization, and are you guys doing that? And John, if you can weigh, I'll let you weigh in on that as well.
So definitely we can display it in those ways. I can't remember exactly, Ian, if you guys exposed a lot of graphs to the managers, or did you get, I think a lot of yours were focused on metric specific, and then just a handful of visuals on top.
Yeah, I mean, we're building out that executive dashboard right now with the store performance on the store performance dashboard, and that's got a lot of graphs. So yeah.
That one does. Yeah.
But definitely capable, and there's multiple pre-built dashboards, and then Taiga's always accommodated any requests that we've had if getting graphs shown is important for your use case.
We had one, just a basic question. Will we be at NACS? We will be there. John and I will be looking for you all to stop by. Maybe Ian can make an appearance, sign some autographs. Brian, you can come by too. But yes, we will be at NACS. So happy to follow up with anybody who has questions at that time. Let's see, we have 2 minutes left and we've got two more questions that came in. Anything that comes in that we didn't get to, we'll follow up with you specifically to answer your question. So let's do one of these questions. It says, how often does Taiga help with reports and dashboards? Is it a consulting fee when they do? My back office nickel and dimes me every time I pick up the phone. So I can answer that question, but why don't you guys give us your actual experience?
Well, I'll tell you this. Ian, I joke with Ian. I think Ian sends a multitude of emails to Taiga with requests, and they're on it. In addition, we have bi-weekly calls. So whether it's an operational from Ian's point of view or an IT, there's something really cool that happens. We don't get charged any more money. It's in our monthly fees to Taiga, and that's what else I really enjoy about our partnership is seemingly everything we ask for. There's a quick response, and I'm not saying in 2 minutes, but in a work week, there's a resolution or a new something or other for us to look at and take a look at, and I'll let Ian speak more specifically because I know he has a lot of requests that are actively being responded to. So,
yeah, no, I mean, we have multiple ongoing conversations. It's near constant communication. Aaron does a great job manning the help chat, so you can get almost immediate response on the help chat on the platform itself, and Jenny and everybody else, Maddie, do a great job of getting back to us in very short order on any requests that we have.
All right. Well, we are right at the bottom of the hour, and so I want to close up here, and obviously thank Ian, you and Brian for agreeing to do this with us. If anybody on the chat, on the call here has any other questions, you can use this QR code. We've also got my information, John's information as well. You can reach out, and then I'm going to go ahead and throw it out there. If you guys want to talk to Ian or Brian, maybe we can get you connected. So if you want to have an offline conversation, then we can get something set up. Maybe you guys can chat at NACS or at another time. So I thank you again. You guys have been great partners with us. We're looking forward to what we can do in the future. And I will sign off unless anyone else has anything to say.
Nope.
We're all good.
Great, thank you, Jenny. I'll also
Thank you.
Have a great afternoon.
If I run into anybody, make sure to say hello.
Thanks, everybody. Have a great day. Bye-bye.
See you.